What transpired between him and what it comes down to is the president of the United States, who is Donald Trump, the 47th president of the United States, didn't appear to be the wisest move in the world. You think I'm happy about Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air? Whether tasteless or not, he was telling a joke, he was making people laugh. You could say it was even inappropriate. Fine, say whatever you want. You're usually not getting taken off the air for it, but times have changed. We're living in different times. Just like we were living in different times when previous administrations were in office and folks were getting fired for pronouncing the wrong pronoun. Or if you had the temerity and the unmitigated gall to sit up there and say certain people didn't need to be participating in certain sports over gender issues, that could get you fired. A few years ago, that was the case. Now it's in reverse.
Stephen A. Smith, as always, is going to show you exactly who he is. For Jason Johnson,
Stephen A. Smith is a quintessential example of the difference between being influential and being known, right? Stephen A. Smith is a very well-known person. When he speaks, people pay attention. He has no real influence. I want to make that clear. He has no real influence in politics. He desperately wants to have influence in politics. He desperately wants to be considered amongst the same spaces as a Roland Martin or a Bakari Sellers or an Angela Rye or a Tiffany Cross or Abby Phillips. He wants to be in that category. He wants to think that he can actually move the needle, and he is being platformed, unfortunately, by a lot of less than informed journalists who are bored and looking for someone who's making loud noises. But let us be clear about who and what he is at this particular point, which is just a loudmouth person who is desperate to be put into different spaces.
he sees through all of it.
And the world, meaning America and beyond, has been forced to adapt. What makes you think you, me, or anybody else is going to be immune to that reality? As we sit here worried about the state of our democracy because what once was tolerated doesn't seem to be tolerated at this moment in time when late night talk show hosts can't even make jokes because it's deemed offensive and very alarming to a sitting president and all of the acolytes and surrogates are under him who have the power to influence what you say and how you say it if they so choose because of the climate that we're living in. Of course, it's disturbing. But you adapt.
And Smith is going to tell you how he's going to adapt in this current climate, which is, to be clear, kissing the ring.
This man is best friends with Chris Christie. He is a Republican. Stephen A. Smith is a Republican. Look at the pictures of him and that crazy human rights abusing police chief, right? Look at all the opportunities that he always takes to attack the Democratic Party. And the issue that I have with him, besides the fact that he's not informed on any of these issues whatsoever, before I even go back to the mistakes he's made in journalism, before I go back to his well-documented history of inappropriate, tacky, and crass comments about women, in particular black women, before I even get into any of that, I will highlight the fact that Stephen A. Smith is a Republican, and he is too much of a coward, and I will say coward, intellectually and personally, to just admit that on the air. Because the moment that he says he's a Republican, then he can no longer play the game he's playing now, which is, oh, I'm just a Democrat who's disappointed, and now people will pay attention to me.
Johnson is stating what we all knew. Smith is only in it for himself and is playing both sides of the fence because of his media training and how savvy he is in this business.
I'm trying always to push us forward, to make sure that you see through the tea leaves, that you're paying attention so you can know what minefields to avoid at the end of the day. I credit the CEO of Walt Disney, along with a host of others, but especially him, Mr. Bob Iger, who in my mind is the greatest executive I have ever seen in my life.
Before we get into how Smith will bend the knee, let's take umbrage with how much glazing this man is doing to Bob Iger. Truly, glaze of the century here.
The best way to handle this kind of disingenuous nonsense is to ignore him. Stephen A. Smith is trying to slowly navigate himself into legitimate spaces in journalism so that he can appear to be credible, so that he can use that to sort of leverage himself against ESPN, which is a dying network like a lot of other things on cable are dying. Listen to him at your peril, Democratic Party, because this man knows nothing. He represents nothing. He is not in contact with a certain segment of the African-American population, and he is making bad faith assessments of the Democratic Party because he is not a Democrat. And I'm not saying that as somebody who is a Democratic fan. I'm saying that as somebody who actually cares about this country and not my own personal self-aggrandizement. And I also say this as somebody who actually understands politics.
Could not have been said better than this, because Johnson is 100% correct. The Dems playing footsie with Smith is beyond embarrassing.
My only issue with Jimmy Kimmel and this whole brouhaha he finds himself inflamed with is not that, oh my God, you can't say a joke. I am incredibly alarmed by what appears to be our First Amendment rights being attacked. This is what I do for a living. I don't like that. But you know he's coming. And you know part of the reason why is to get back at everybody who tried to take him down. They didn't try to keep him out of the White House and that was it. They tried to throw him in prison. The man is coming. And you have to adjust accordingly.
Let's be clear about what he's saying. Do not speak up. Do not speak out. Just go with it all like I am, because I got a fat new contract and I'm trying to get mine.
There's not a politician alive in America who's making their decisions based on what Stephen A. Smith says. Even if Eric Swalwell decides to bring him to Washington, D.C., I've met Eric Swalwell. I'm a fan of his. Eric, don't waste your time, because Stephen A. Smith doesn't represent anybody other than himself and the small number of Republicans and Republican acolytes who are friends of his.
I know we've gotten to the point where it feels like nothing matters anymore. Media is eroding along with constitutionally protected rights, but Jason Johnson is absolutely spot on here. It's rather simplistic. I even saw a tweet from someone today saying on Smith, "This is akin to me going into Stephen A. Smith's realm on First Take and talking about baseball." Luckily for that user, Smith also knows nothing about baseball. So you would be on, pardon the pun, a level playing field. Here's where I stand on all of this. I don't know why the Democrats are possibly, and I'm not saying that it is for certain, but possibly even toying with this. I understand why Stephen A. is doing it. Because as I have said many times over, this is probably, potentially, going to be his last humongous bloated contract with ESPN, because if it wasn't for the sports leagues, they would be hemorrhaging money. Think about an obscure network in relation to ESPN, and this is no knock. I love CBS Sports Network. I have it on, but in comparison, ESPN dwarfs CBS Sports. And a lot of people don't watch CBS Sports. More people watch Smith and First Take, which it is what it is. But Smith sees what's happening with media. And he knows the best way to stay in the limelight is use the platform that he has and have on, whether they are truth-telling or deeply problematic guests. For example, he has had on Steve Bannon. He has had on Byron Donalds. He has had on Ben Shapiro. He's had on Riley Gaines. I mean, you see the pattern here. You see what he's doing. And there's actually, I believe his name is Jason Cohen, who works for the Daily Wire, always posts clips of Stephen A. Smith. Why do you think he's doing that? Ask yourself that question. So for Smith, it's about raising his profile that much more. For the rest of us, it sucks. Because this is not what we need right now. We don't need a hot take artist getting into very serious topics. And yet, this is what different networks have allowed and enabled by saying we don't want award-winning journalists. What we want is hot take artists who will grab headlines and eyeballs. That is the unfortunate nature of media today. Hey, I appreciate you watching. Now, if you can, please do become a channel member by going to youtube.com/TYT Sports and clicking the join button. If that's too much for you, you can just go to tyt.com/join to become a member. It helps all of us out here at the Young Turks and keeps our network afloat. In addition, you could follow me on my socials on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Appreciate the love. Have a great day.